What's going on, guys? We are back, and I decided to do something a little different today. We are going to be discussing the Star Wars franchise, but in a new kind of manner. I brought someone along, and it's really great to have not just another opinion of a franchise that I love, but also other people love. Star Wars has gained a lot of fandom over the years from not just a male perspective but a female perspective, and I have someone here who is a very great dear friend of mine, as well as also who has made just amazing artwork in the past. I've given her a lot of prompts. Hope made items as well as art. So let me go ahead and introduce you to by the maker, the legend that has made such great art is by the name of Hope for Homemade. What's going on today?
Not a whole lot. I mean, I'm here trying to give my opinion on Star Wars. I don't know. So,
Well, I mean, like I said, a lot of female opinions have gone through the entirety of Star Wars. Star Wars, as a fandom has grown. I have not really talked to very many female fans as a whole due to Star Wars, because again, not a whole lot of females either want to say they like Star Wars, or they don't talk about it, or due to, oh hey, I like Star Wars, but I'm not fully into Star Wars like the next individual next to me. So a lot of fans want to go, okay, well, I just like Star Wars. But what initially drew you to Star Wars other than, I'm guessing, Baby Yoda? So let's go ahead and take that from there.
well, I'd have to say the prequels when I first watched it and got introduced to the different characters, like,
What, like Obi-Wan or Anakin or anyone
yeah,
like that?
and then watching the different series, watching The Mandalorian, getting to see Ahsoka, getting to see Clone Wars, now watching the Rebels, and my favorite character of Clone Wars happens to be Ahsoka because I'm gonna just be blunt when I say this, she's a badass character.
Oh yeah, she is a very badass character. She really when she was first introduced, not a whole lot of fans enjoyed her. Then they actually grew to like her. When I first got introduced to her myself, I had no idea who she was, and then I really dug into her character, and I was like, okay, wow, Anakin. So Anakin did have an apprentice during the time of the Clone Wars, and we have to realize, okay, she is flawed just like any other character, but then she really grows into this amazing character, not only but women as well as men can actually enjoy her transformation from being a very, I guess you'd say, a very bratty kind of, ambitious character to a very full grown, wise character who has learned from her faults, who has learned from, I would say, three great Jedi Masters, Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Anakin Skywalker. So what really drew you to her character other than just being a badass and also probably not just only being Anakin's apprentice?
Well, my thing is, she does give off that, oh, basically typical teenager of, oh, I know everything. And now being and seeing her in the Rebels, she has given this, she's a little older, she's wiser. And then seeing her in The Mandalorian this last season, she now is a full grown adult and she's a lot more wiser, and that could be given to real life if you really stop and look in that aspect of she's going through the stages of basically life. You got the bratty teenager, the wise young adult, and then the other middle age.
Like middle-aged adult, and then to an actual older adult, correct?
Right.
Well, I think I'd have to agree with that because, again, with Ahsoka, because we look at it from anyone's perspective, because everyone knows, Anakin Skywalker, a.k.a. Darth Vader, he is the eye of Star Wars, or Luke, however you want to perceive it, but you look at someone from a very young perspective like Ahsoka, especially if you're a female or even a male, you're that age probably. You'd want to, oh hey, I want to be a Jedi, I want to be like this, and then Ahsoka just blows up literally almost overnight, and then she really becomes her character all in her own. And one of my favorite lines by her is saying, like how Ashley Essen said it, that one of her favorite lines was, it's just, I help people as part of just, I guess, who I am. And I like that line, as well as her also informing people that, hey, we don't have to do this, we can go about it a different manner. So I would have to agree, Ahsoka is just an amazing character to watch as well as everything else. But also, one of my characters, of course, being Anakin. One of my other characters, Obi-Wan, Darth Vader, of course now Mando. What exactly? First off, I'll say this: out of the three prequels, which one did you enjoy more? Phantom Menace, Attack on the Clones, or Revenge of the Sith?
I think the Revenge of the Sith had to be my favorite one because it just was. I don't know how to really explain it, but to me it was one of those, okay, cool. I got to see something maybe different that I hadn't watched all the time. Because that I really didn't watch Star Wars in the beginning, but sitting down watching the prequels and then some of the sequels and then of course the little side stories, and yeah, I think
Yeah, a lot of people kind of go for Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith. Now, myself, Revenge of the Sith was probably one of my favorite ones, not only due to, seeing Anakin's turn from a psychological standpoint to a physical standpoint to a mental standpoint. That was probably one of my favorite movies of all time. Now, when it first came out, I did not enjoy it, but, of course, seeing, a childhood hero turn into, something dark and evil, but then you realize, okay, this had to happen for him to be evil for amount of years and then get redeemed by his son. And I will have to say that Star Wars as a whole, as a franchise, you see a lot of transformations. You are going to make mistakes. You will become this type of person for however many years or months or a few days, and then you realize, hey, guess what, it ain't always about me, it can always just do this. But now going on to the originals, now myself, I saw the originals. I know I informed you because you asked me which one should I start from. Was the originals. Of course, you got New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Now myself, I love Empire Strikes Back. I think that says a lot about the franchise. That anyone that will say out of the originals, which one is your favorite? Me personally, it's Empire Strikes Back. Would you agree that Empire Strikes Back is your favorite, or one of the other two?
I would have to say one of the other two. I mean, now granted, The Empire Strikes Back is a good one too. But watching the Clone Wars, the series, gave a lot more detail.
Well, we're talking about the originals. We're not talking about Clone Wars. We're talking about the originals.
I understand that. But it gives...
of how it leads up to that.
Right.
Well, I fully agree with that because we fully see why Anakin made that transition from not only to, Jedi Padawan to apprentice to Jedi Knight and then so-called Jedi Master and then be put off to the side of everything, how he was, and then going into Darth Vader and how Vader was for, over 20 years, I would say, or even more. But then, I would say, from the time of the Empire, a lot of these movies and shows, we got Rebels, what takes place during that time frame. We have Solo, that takes place during that time frame. Rogue One takes place during that time frame, and Mandalorian takes place after Return of the Jedi. So even I've heard you even say you love the Mandalorian not only just because of Baby Yoda, but just because of how they do this. So they're not focused on the Jedi. They are going into the backwater worlds. They're really diving into the Mandalorians, which even I informed you, check out Mandalorians during the Clone Wars as well as also during Rebels, and you will see why that I like them so much and why other people like them so much. Would you agree with that? Or would you say they're still less than the Jedi? Or would you say they're just as interesting as the Jedi?
Me personally, I think they're as interesting.
What makes them as interesting as a Jedi?
Well, if you've really sat and watched The Mandalorian from the first season to this season, it really gives us perspective of a quote-unquote space western, where it kind of brings the western into space, and it...
A lot of people would agree with that. I know a lot of people that I personally have listen to review. A lot of people like that feeling. Some people don't. It all depends on what your perception is of a space western or a western, or if you enjoy that type of feel. Some people like it, some people don't, which is perfectly fine. You're entitled to your own opinion. You're entitled to what you want to watch. You don't have to watch something, but at the same time, be respectful of other people's views and not try to be, something try to just be a butt about it. And now we're going to go into probably some very crazy territory here in a second. But the sequels with Rey, Kylo, and Finn, and Poe, and BB-8, and all them, what is your thoughts on that franchise? Do you think it was amazing? Do you think it was a train wreck? Did it make sense? Or are you just like, okay, it's there, let's move on from it?
Well, I have to say that Rey, she was an alright character. I have to say that because she's an okay character. Kylo, I feel like he was unnecessary. His character was like probably last minute of, okay, let's try to put him in there as like a filler. Finn.
But why do you feel like Kylo Ren was a filler, even though it is? They changed it around in Legends and books, where Vader did have a impression on one of his grandchildren to try to follow in his footsteps. But now a lot of people know my personal opinion that I don't think Adam Driver was the right fit for Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren, to me, it, like you said, did feel like he was filler. Didn't feel like he was fully there. They pretty much just wrote him in all kinds of crazy directions to make him what a lot of people said was an emo kid who did not have attention from mommy and daddy. Now, do you agree with that statement, or do you think that they just like you said, they just threw something to see what stuck?
I honestly think he was an emo kid, or probably was portrayed to be an quote-unquote emo kid that didn't get enough attention from mommy and daddy, and being that you and I grew up in that era of the quote-unquote emo kids, we know exactly what they look like, how they act, and all that. And
what she means by that, guys, is when you're a 90s kid, because you got to think here, when I was in middle school and high school, there was a lot, that pretty much is what made a lot of people probably I'm just going to say in my generation, why we like a lot of women that are goth / emo. I mean, because you look at different things that we grew up watching from like back in the day, even now, you got certain movies like Ginger Snaps, you have, the Scooby-Doo, the Hex Girls, we have, Hocus Pocus, we have Halloween Town, we got all these movies, of, dark stuff that, women, really grew to, and they, wore a lot of black or whatever you have, and ones that are probably listening to this, if you are, okay, if you're not, okay, that means if you're emo, okay, if you're not, that's okay too. I have nothing towards that, because I was friends with a lot of different individuals that wore that type of stuff. And again, Kylo Ren, they seem like they try to make him into a emo type of character, and they said, oh, he wasn't supposed to be like that. But again, I think there was a lot of misdirection with that. Now, you said, now going on to Finn, which I think is pretty lame, because again, they had so much potential with this character, and they did not know what they were doing. But what was your take on Finn and the rest of this so-called cast and crew?
Well, Finn, he honestly, and I don't have any hate towards the actor, I don't have any hate towards the movie or the directors or anything like that, but he really was a filler. He probably was a last minute casting, because before I honestly watched the movie with him, and before I didn't even know who he was till I watched the movie. And being that I looked, into everything, that's really all he's famous for. And he's only famous because he yelled her name twice.
Well, I have to fully agree with that, because again, John Boyega, he went out and tried to do something, and unfortunately, with a lot of things that has been said and done behind the scenes and in the public eye, I'm not going to get too much into. But again, I think his character was done wrong. He had potential of becoming a Jedi, or being force sensitive to be trained to become a Jedi. Because I think anyone would like to see a former stormtrooper become a Jedi. I think that'd be pretty interesting. But again, I think the he went about the wrong way, with doing what he's had to say. I think he's done wrong about it, and I also think that the writers, as well as the producers, and even with J.J. Abrams and Ryan Johnson, they've really, like a lot of people said, it was like a divorce hearing, pretty much like, okay, when you get the kids, and Star Wars being AKA the kids, and we did not know what to expect through the first one, because when Force Awakens came out, I was personally very excited for it, and then it was just there. They killed off a lot of beloved characters that myself, personally grew up watching. Han Solo, Leia. We had, of course, Luke Skywalker, and they made Luke Skywalker look like a chump. They made Han Solo die at the hands of his son. They made Leia, of course, Carrie Fisher, R.E.P. Lovely, amazing actress. Amazing woman who's done so much for the Star Wars community. That did so much for the Star Wars community. They killed her off, I would say, in a decent way. Now, a lot of people did not like the way they killed her off. They did not like the way, all of a sudden she has Force powers in Last Jedi, and then they have to retcon that in Rise of Skywalker. Now, the rest of the crew, such as Poe and all them, I didn't really care about them. BB-8, I did not have a problem with BB-8. I found BB-8 to be really interesting. Kind of reminds me of Chopper, honestly, from Rebels. I think that's where they got that idea from. Would you agree with all that, or do you disagree with all that?
I think BB-8, now, he does look like Chopper from the Rebels, but BB-8, because I'm going to go off a little bit, but I'm not much for like technology or anything like that, but when I saw R2-D2 and C-3PO and BB-8 and Chopper, I thought they were the cutest things.
So you pretty much like them just as much as would you like them as much as Baby Yoda, or are about the same?
It's about the same with them. And another one of my, I guess you could say, almost sidekicks is Chewbacca, because he's just looks like one of them little lovable things you want to go up and hug or cuddle, or
and even the Ewoks as well, right?
Yeah,
or the Porgs.
They look like a little teddy bear. You just want to go up and hug them.
Well, I think everyone, before we had the Porgs, we had the Ewoks, and I remember everyone saying, "Oh, Ewoks look like little fuzzballs, little teddy bears, or Pomeranians," and I personally would agree with that. Now, I know, again, a lot of people did not enjoy the prequels at all, or not the prequels, but the sequels, and some people said the prequels, but honestly, I think the sequels were the worst in the franchise. Would you agree with that, or would you disagree with that, and why?
Well, I don't think I've seen all of the sequels. Okay. Well, yeah. I had to stop and think for a minute. Yeah, I've seen all the sequels. And the way they did it with the original characters, as far as Han Solo, I didn't like the fact that he got taken out by Kylo, which is supposed to be his son. Now, granted, Carrie Fisher's character, which is, also known as Leia, I understand, unfortunately, she got sick, she passed away, so yes, they respectfully, unfortunately killed off her character, because, well, she unfortunately passed. But the fact that they killed off Han Solo, they killed off
Leia in the last one, and of course they killed off my boy Luke in Last Jedi, and they made him look like a pretty much like he just took a vow of silence, pretty much, and is the way a lot of people say it, because at that rate, if you were going to kill all them, you might as well just kill Lando at that rate, and Chewie. But then again, I think the Phantom would have struck even harder than they already did.
And me personally, I didn't like the way they did Luke when Rey went to look for him, because they made him look like, okay, well, my work here is done, let me just go off and
become a monk.
Basically. And I'm not trying to compare Master Yoda's disappearance or hiatus to Luke's, but in a way, it almost seemed that way, where, okay, well, let me just go into hiding, and if you need me, come find me, basically, type of vibe.
Well, I mean, yeah, I fully agree with that, because Luke pretty much, I gave that persona of, hey, I failed my nephew, I failed the universe, I failed, my students, and I was, supposed to achieve everything, because I turned Darth Vader back to good, but that was close to the same as what happened to Yoda, due to Yoda was not he went to hiding because he knew that was probably the best thing for him to do. After now realizing one of my Padawans has turned to the dark side, I lost not only my students, I lost my friends, I lost my family, I lost all the students that I have taught through my 1,000 years of teaching, and now the Republic has not only turned on me, but as well as my disciples, and I have to go into hiding not only to save myself, but to also protect my students.
And being that, can't remember what prequel that he was found in, I don't know how to call it except a swamp.
You mean the original when he was found on Dagobah?
Right. When he was found in that, and he
just seemed to be this old gritty character
Right.
that you would think was like almost like a gremlin when you first saw him,
Right.
to be this old funny old man that beat R2-D2 with a stick, and then realizing, hey, this ain't a old guy, this is a Jedi Master, and looks like you can't be a Jedi Master, and then he finally reveals, hey, I am a Jedi Master and you're just a dumb kid. And then he realizes, hey, this is the son of Anakin Skywalker, but as soon as he meets him, and then it's like, hey, I'm gonna try to train you, but I'm not gonna train you the way I did your father.
Exactly. And I'm going to go back onto Ahsoka for a half a second.
Go ahead.
Being that now I'm getting into the Rebels and getting onto that episode. Well, season 2 now, where in the last episode of the season 1, where we finally get to see Ahsoka on season 1, where she's flying
the ghost
to where she's a little bit more grown and a little bit more wiser now, getting to season 2 and possibly getting closer to seeing when she gets to see Anakin, which has already turned to Vader.
You're stoked for that.
I'm stoked for that, because the last time they seen each other was when she walked off from being a Jedi.
And then, of course, when they saw each other again, when they asked her to come back for the Siege of Mandalore.
Exactly.
And a lot of people don't realize that the meeting of Ahsoka and Anakin / Vader happened before season 7 was shot, which I know a lot of people love both those seasons, including myself. I love the fight between Ahsoka and Vader. It's one of my favorite fights in any type of, whether you call it cinema history, TV history. I love Ahsoka and Anakin's relationship, that brother-sister, always being there for one another and then changing into something that no one really recognized. So I pretty much do enjoy that. I love that. Like I said, Ahsoka and Vader are one of my favorite characters within the franchise. Now, I know you keep going back to Ahsoka. I'm guessing you really resonate with her because of, I guess, you not only being new to the franchise, but also you just like, what, a powerful female character, or what really drew you to Ahsoka?
Well, it happened, I like a powerful female character, and I can kind of relate to her because when I was younger, it was one of those, I didn't want to listen, typical
teenager or
Right.
kid.
And now that I'm a little older and been through a handful of things, like and being through that, and then seeing a character that has grown up like her, been through her things, and she can still bounce back and has bounced back, it's like, okay, anything I've been through, I can bounce back because, well,
if she can do that, so can you.
Yeah. And that's pretty much how I can relate to her on that level.
I would fully agree with that. I mean, and that's why I think a lot of people do love Ahsoka is, she's been through so much, and then other characters such as like even Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker. Me personally, Anakin's one of my favorite characters, not only due to him being raised by a single mother, which again I myself was, as you know, as well as also not knowing who his father is and why he tries to do something, and he has all this set of rules, and he's always tempted to go both sides of the coin, wanting to go down that dark path like any human being is. We're always shown two different paths. We're shown, the good path or the bad path, or what we think is the good path or the bad path, which could be the opposite, or it could be what we're thinking. And I think Star Wars does such an amazing job of bringing us into this world of things that we either want to understand or we fully understand. We get so deep down into this world we can actually forget reality. We actually think either how good or bad our lives are, that we go into this reality and we just deep dive into it. And I will say, from my own personal experience, Star Wars has really kept me alive. It's really, when I was going through hard times in 2017, even though Last Jedi came out, and previously having, as well as Force Awakens, even though it was not the Star Wars I wanted, it was probably the Star Wars I needed at the time, just to see it and be able to go through and say, okay, I watched it, I went through this, I can get through what I was going through at that particular time. But going back to the question of why you like Ahsoka so much, what exactly do you think of her? Do you like her better in the live action version with seeing Rosario Dawson take her as Ahsoka, or seeing Ashley continue as Ahsoka voice wise? Because personally I like both. I'm used to Ashley since that's when I was first introduced to her. Now I do remember you saying you were first introduced to Ahsoka through Rosario Dawson. Does that change your view on Ahsoka any much, or do you kind of figure out it's just two different actors, but it's the same character because they're doing so well to make the character transcend to animation to live action?
Me personally, I think it's both for me, because seeing Rosario Dawson play her in the live action and then having the voice actress do her on the
on Clone Wars and Rebels,
right, and seeing them both do that and basically not losing the aspect or losing the feel or the wisdom, or however you may put it, that Ahsoka does have, then I'm good with it.
I personally agree with that, because again, Rosario Dawson, I'm not saying she's a bad actress, but I did have my doubts when she got cast as Ahsoka, or there was rumors that she got cast as Ahsoka, until we actually were informed, like, hey, that she is going to be playing Ahsoka. But seeing that episode and seeing her demeanor, seeing her walk and talk like Ahsoka would, seeing like how even Ashley would, and seeing her draw those white lightsabers the way Ahsoka honestly would in the series, and seeing that in live action really almost brought me to tears. It really made me smile, and I couldn't wait to see more of Ahsoka. And now that she has her own show, I'm definitely going to be watching. Are you going to be watching? I'm guessing you're watching Ahsoka's new show, or are you going to? Is that the only one you're curious about right now, or are you going to be wanting to watch all these other amazing Star Wars shows that's coming out, such as The Bad Batch, Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian, even more? Which ones are you really excited for?
Honestly, I'm excited for all of them. I'm excited to see if Ahsoka, when Ahsoka gets her own show, and yeah, when it comes on, I'm gonna be glued to that TV. When the Book of Boba Fett comes on, same thing. Mandalorian, I'm already gonna be hooked to it. The Bad Batch, I saw that in
the Clone Wars.
In the Clone Wars, I saw that, and I was okay with it. And to see more of the Bad Batch will be interesting, because it's more intel into the
Republic to the Empire.
Right. And then to see the Book of Boba Fett, I saw him, I can't remember which movie or show, but I saw him and his son.
It was, I'm guessing, for the same actor who played Jango Fett, Tamir Morrison, who played Jango Fett, and then he took on the role as Boba Fett as well, since they are clones within the Star Wars franchise.
Right. And then, but to say yes, I am going to be hooked to the TV when all of the different Star Wars shows come on, because honestly, I am going to give you a big compliment here. You were really the first person to get me onto Star Wars, because I was going to try to watch it on my own, and every time I kept saying, I'm going to watch it, one, I never really said, okay, what movie am I going to watch first? Because if I had watched it on my own, then I would have been completely lost. And anytime I was going to try to watch something or try to get into something, things came up to where I just said, okay, screw it, and I'm just going to turn off the TV and just deal with what was around me. And since you and I watched them together, it makes a lot more sense how you had me watch them, plus the different shows we're watching now, because, like I said, if I would have tried to watch them on my own, I would have been lost. And two, I probably would have never gotten through them due to what was going on personally with me.
Well, I would say, first off, you're welcome that, and hopefully, I see how much you love the franchise, of how much, I've talked about the franchise, how much that, we both enjoy the franchise. Now, I will say, I can't wait to see the others myself. Like I even told you once before off camera, I'm very ready for the Book of Boba Fett. That was my guy. He was one of my favorite characters. Him getting killed off the way he did, and then of course same thing with Django, and going further probably into their characters with the Book of Boba Fett, as well as also going further into Ahsoka. Again, like I'll say again, Ahsoka is literally one of my favorite characters as well. I'm very happy that she's getting her own show. We get to finally see what exactly is going to happen after the last time we saw her in Rebels, which I know I've seen that you have not as of yet. With her being what we would consider to be a Jedi, but also not a Jedi, it's going to be very interesting to see what she's going to consider herself as. Probably just a Force user. Now, I will say, in Clone Wars, I did enjoy a lot of the characters that I know we saw, as well as also in Rebels. Certain other characters I know that are probably going to be coming back, such as Ezra, even Sabine, and more. Now, I'm very interested to see Sabine coming to live action, as well as Ezra Bridger, which I know they've been keeping quiet on the casting. But would you like to see those characters come from the animated series to Rebels to live action, or do you think that that's better as animated than as live action?
From what I've seen so far with the animated for Ezra and Sabine and all the different ones, it would be interesting to see them come to live action just like different ones did. For example, seeing Obi-Wan and all them characters go from live action to animated with, from the sequels, not the sequels, the prequels to
the Clone Wars, and then the Clone
Wars
Wars into the originals, and then the originals into everything else. Which again, I fully agree, because we're getting a character I know that you're probably not familiar with, Great Admiral Thrawn, which is a character who is very high up in the Empire and very well known to be a big strategist as well as a military expert, which he is going to be in the show Ahsoka, as well as also he's later revealed in Rebels, which I'm not trying to give too much away. But then at the same time, Sabine is going to be casted at some point. We don't know who has been casted for Sabine in Ahsoka or any other show. Same thing as Ezra. There's been a lot of rumors of who Ezra's going to be playing as, or who's going to be playing Ezra in the live action show. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. But I also know overall, like I stated, Star Wars as a whole has brought a lot of fandom together, and I think Star Wars finally, under the supervision of Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, kudos to them. They've really brought a lot of female fans into this, not only as as a whole, but I think more female fans such as yourselves need to be very open about it, and also just say, hey, I'm a Star Wars fan, I'm proud of it, just like anybody else. This is not just a guy-based fandom. I think it's a multiple fandom, and I've grown more into the fandom, and I know other people have as well, because this ain't just one particular fandom. I think the fandom reaches all kinds of genders and ages, age groups, I would say, because I've met young Star Wars fans, I've met older Star Wars fans, I've met Star Wars fans around my age, and I've come across a few more female fans that I've talked to personally, and you have to be one of the ones I've talked to. So it's been an overall pleasure just talking about it, and it's just been a great pleasure of again talking to you in general, as well as also just talking about Star Wars. Every time someone talks about Star Wars, I get very deep into the lore. I learned a lot more from the books, as well as also the podcasts that I've been listening to, as well as YouTube videos, and I know you have as well from what you told me. But there's been others that I know you said that you've really listened to and say, hey, I didn't know that, or certain characters you didn't really know of. But what character did you say, other than Ahsoka, from the franchise that you probably really enjoyed watching, seeing their arc, whether they have already completed their arc, or their arc may still have room for improvement? Which character would you say you really enjoyed their arc?
I'd have to say ones. Now, this is before Anakin turns to Darth Vader. He, yeah, when he was younger, he was a little reckless. But again, that goes back to when you're a younger kid, you're gonna be reckless. Obi-Wan, for example. He gave off that whole older brother, fatherly type persona, and we didn't get to see Qui-Gon Jinn that much because unfortunately his character, in my personal opinion, was killed off a little too soon. But again, that's just my opinion. But I like theirs. Now, when I first got into it and I heard Yoda speak, it was a little backwards. But then you explained that it was just the way he was and all that. But going back to that, I'd have to say between Anakin and Obi-Wan, that has to be some of my favorite characters.
Okay, that's reasonable. I mean, I know there is a big rumor that Liam Neeson is going to be returning as Qui-Gon Jinn in the Obi-Wan series. Are you looking forward to that, or do you think that was a good idea, or what is your take on that?
I'm personally excited to see that if that does happen, because I'm a Liam Neeson fan anyway. When I knew or when I recognized him and figured out that was him who was playing Qui-Gon, I was over the moon. Like I said, being that they killed him off, in my personal opinion, a little too soon, that was a little disappointing. But, for him to come back as
a Force ghost.
Right. Was pretty amazing how they did that.
Yeah, since he was the first one, he teaches Yoda, and then later Obi-Wan, and then Anakin, and among others. Now, again, a lot of people says that Qui-Gon was the initial father figure that Anakin needed, and a lot of people speculate if he did not die, that he would not have fell to the dark side. Do you personally agree with that, or do you disagree with that?
I agree with that because I'm of that opinion that was probably the first slip for Anakin towards the dark side.
I would agree and disagree with that. I think one of the major slips was, of course, him having to be away from his mother, and then finding out that his mother died, and then him, of course, killing Sand People, and among many other things. But as I've said before, Anakin had a great arc. It's pretty much done unless they want to do something sidewise, which they're going to be continuing doing. There's so much more they can do with Darth Vader as a whole, which they will in the Obi-Wan series, which I cannot believe they finally got Hayden Christensen to come back to the franchise as well, which I'm very happy for. But at the same time, I'm, of course, very happy that, Star Wars is such a good place right now. And as I said, I figure I'll go ahead and bring someone else on real quick to just talk about Star Wars, because we're almost in 40 minutes in already for this amazing talk, which hopefully I did not talk too much. Hopefully I was able to get you to talk so much. But before we get out of here, is there anything else you want to say about the Star Wars fandom community, Star Wars in general, that you're just very happy to hopefully be a part of now? What is your take on it?
All I can say is I'm happy to be a part of it, and once again, thank you for getting me into it.
Well, as I said, you're welcome. Now, as another side thing, I had a question on, have you thought about doing anything Star Wars-wise for your art, or have you thought about painting or making any of your other things that, would be Star Wars relatable, which, ones could possibly buy from you? Have you thought about doing that?
I've thought about making, like, coasters or placemats or wall hangings or different paintings and stuff like that. And I've thought about, doing different possible makeup looks from different Star Wars characters, getting my own YouTube channel, and things like that. Because that is a possibility.
Well, I mean, I think everyone's going to be looking forward to that. Hopefully, this will get a little more recognition out there. Now, since you do say you do not have a YouTube channel as of yet, and you're thinking about doing that, I'm definitely going to probably have you on again if that's okay with you, and as well at the same time. Is there any way that we can follow you, Instagram, Twitter, or anything of that nature?
Well, you can follow my
I know you have your Instagram, which I cannot remember the
Yeah.
names, but I can list it down in the description
Okay.
down below, as well as your Twitter.
You can follow my Twitter at hope_handmade. That is basically, I would consider my
For your main one that
Right.
you use all your for your product line,
Right.
correct?
And then for my Instagram, it's all lowercase letters. It's Hope's Beauty Routine.
Okay, and I know you do have an Instagram. I know one of them's the same, so it's pretty much you just on those platforms right now. But you are looking to expand into other platforms such as YouTube as well, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I think that YouTube, you should be able to do YouTube, and I think that anyone that would want to possibly follow you, who is an artist or anyone, should be able to hopefully follow you, be able to know what you're doing, and be able to just enjoy, fan art from another fan. But overall, like I did state, of course, another thing that I know you have is Handcraft by Hope, which is your Facebook page as well as also for your TikTok and everything of that nature. But overall, before we get out of here, it's been a pleasure as always talking to you, as well as also discussing more Star Wars. So I think it's been a great time, and I hope you enjoyed this.
Yes, I did.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys did, let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments. If you guys want to give her a follow, by all means. And I'm thinking about doing this again. Probably bringing in Hope once again, or probably bringing in someone else for a great talk for whether it be Star Wars or something else. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and I'll talk to you soon.